Welcome to the Chelsea Fans Channel. It's with great pleasure that I welcome Dan Levine back to the channel. Dan, it's been far too long.
It has.
And you really have to come and see us more often, because since we last saw you, we've crashed out of 2 competitions in 5 days and things really haven't been up to scratch. I mean, even the glorious view over London, Senate House, if anybody cares about that sort of thing, cannot brighten the mood. What has been going on?
It's been miserable, hasn't it? And just when we were starting to get hopeful that things were turning around, when we were starting to see the team starting to take steps up the league, it all came crashing down with going out the Champions League and the FA Cup. And now we have no European football, and it's a pretty miserable place, I'm afraid.
Yeah, it just really hasn't been good enough. I mean, Hiddink come in and he's done well. He's steadied a rocky ship. But I think he's drawn more games than he's won. You know, we're still undefeated, but he's drawn more than he's won. It's not quite good enough yet, is it?
No, not really. And the difficulty is, I think a lot of people are comparing Hiddink with what he might have done last time. And really, Chelsea came from a much lower starting point this time.
Yeah.
There seemed to be less confidence in the squad, less ability. You know, if you think of the players and the leaders we had before when Hiddink came in, it was a far stronger physically and mentally side, and it's taken a lot more of a job. He's improved the team. You know, we're not fighting relegation. We are mid-table, but it's small crumbs of comfort, really, isn't it?
It really isn't good enough. Do you feel like the future is bright? Is there a bit of positivity around the corner, or are we in the mire?
Being typical Chelsea, I think it's a sort of glass half full, half empty type equation, isn't it? You're never quite sure where this club is going to turn next.
Yeah.
And I've been covering them for 13 years now, and I've been supporting them for 30 odd years.
Yeah.
And I think anybody watching this knows that's the case with Chelsea.
There
are sort of hopes ahead. We really need to restructure, rebuild both the squad and also the management, and it's going to be a very, very important summer. Really important summer.
I think a lot of people as well are trying to apportion blame. I'm not necessarily sure that that's really helpful, but it's a natural thing that people do. A man who's come in for a lot of flack, quite often from me, is Michael Emenalo. Some people defend him. I think that he really is a problem in the club. Where do you stand on that?
I think Michael Emenalo has done good things and bad things at Chelsea, and I think it's a bit of a mistake to sort of expect him to have done all of one or the other. He has brought in some good players. If you think about Lukaku was one of his projects, and De Bruyne was another. Of course, we've lost both of those, but that's a different story. But then at the same time, I think a lot he's been caught out through maybe a little bit of naivety. There are questions about his experience in the game, and there are people who are maybe justifiably saying we could do with somebody who's got a bit more football in them at the highest level in the club.
Yes, I think that's a really good issue. A man who does have a lot of football in him, and I think he's played in World Cups. And, had a really good playing career with Lecce and Juventus. Was Antonio Conte. It's looking like he's coming in. Yep,
it seems to be a done deal. He's handed his notice at the Italian FA. He said that after the Euros he's a free man, and it would be easy to put a Due together and get Quattro.
Right.
But you might expect this is a new man coming in. It's going to be a big change in direction. I think from the point of view of Chelsea, there are many different directions they could have gone in this stage, and he's maybe seen as a bit of a safe bet.
Right.
He's got the pedigree. Juventus, he took a sleeping giant and he turned them into champions. The question, of course, is, like Hiddink, we're taking a club that's far, far lower in the pecking order and lower in confidence than Juventus were when he took them over. So it's a big, big job for him.
Do you, speaking more as a fan than as sort of journalist, do you think he's the right man? Are you happy with this appointment?
I mean, it hasn't quite been made yet, but I think yes, I think I am, because he looks like a reasonably safe bet. That he's got the experience. He's a clever guy. He speaks English. He's a good sort of studier of the game. And if you look at some of the other people that have been talked about, Simeone is a great manager, but he's definitely a wild card.
Yes.
You never quite know what's going to happen with that. And I think
very Chelsea though. It's suited us well in the past.
Very true. But then if you think in the past, we've sort of flipped between the craziness of Mourinho and the very sort of calm, collective, suave, Ancelotti type.
Yeah.
And maybe it feels, I would imagine to Abramovich it feels, now it's time for a bit of calmness.
Yes. So no European football next season, at least at the highest level. Yeah. No trophies this season. Is Conte the man to help us attract the biggest names into the club?
Well, he's certainly got the contacts book. He's been Italian manager for two and a bit years now. At Juventus before that for 3 years. He's played at the very, very highest level in the game, and he will have people around him, one would hope, who will have contacts as well, who will know people. New signings are definitely needed. The question is, of course, how much money is going to be made available for him to do that.
Do you think that enough will be made?
And this is the difficulty. The way Chelsea has been the last year or more is basically 1 in 1 out on the transfer front. It looks like Roman is got a lot of his money set up in potentially building a new stadium, and he doesn't necessarily want to invest a load of money in players.
Right.
So there's the difficulty. We can never
see. This is troubling. And also, Dan, I saw a brilliant article that you wrote for Get West London regarding Zlatan Ibrahimovic. He's coming up as a free agent, as a lot of people know, and some people are suggesting that he'd be a great choice for Chelsea. I'd be one of those. I thought he was brilliant for Paris Saint-Germain. Such a good player, so good on the ball, and a lump. He'd really be suited to the English game. Your article troubled me somewhat, because effectively you suggested that West Ham would be more of a suitor, a better suitor for him than Chelsea at the moment.
Possibly. Zlatan, I think, is a player a lot of Chelsea fans have always liked. He feels very Chelsea, doesn't he?
Yes.
He's got that sort of
arrogance.
attitude. Yes, exactly that. And he's obviously a great player. And you look at the shape and size of him, he's ideal for the Premier League. You'd have thought, where does he go next? Premier League. It's got to be. It's where the money is. It's where the profile is. But then he's going to want to play at the highest level. We don't have European football. A team potentially like West Ham, who may well have European football, who will have a new stadium they need to fill. He'll be a big draw for people in the East End. And you could see that that might be enticing to him.
It's a huge turnaround, this, isn't it? West Ham are a club that I think they've beaten us twice since 2003. They've watched us win trophy after trophy. They've watched us win a European Cup and very rarely seen their side beat us. I think this season being the exception. This shouldn't be happening. This isn't how things are done, is it?
Wait, it hasn't happened yet, though.
No, but I mean, even the potential, even the fact that we're having this discussion isn't how things are done.
Well, this is where Chelsea are now, and this is the difficulty. We are, as things stand, a mid-table side with no prospect of European football. The thing to remember, of course, is that Abramovich, when he wants someone, he very often does get them.
Yes.
And I understand that he does have an interest in Ibrahimovic.
Right.
And who knows what could be made to happen.
Okay, well that's a nice little bit of positivity there. Thank you for that, because we did need a sprinkle of it. Something else that I wanted to talk to you about, and I know this is an issue close to a lot of Chelsea fans' hearts, your heart, I'm sure. Conte coming in, let's just assume that one's a done deal for a moment. Can you see a world in which he will come in and insist on keeping John Terry at the club? Because I cannot stand the idea of John Terry having, 8 games left in a Chelsea shirt.
It is troubling, isn't it? And we've got a difficult period ahead now, because until we actually have it confirmed that Conte is Chelsea manager, then we're in this sort of guessing game. It will happen, but then the club are saying it's his decision whether or not Terry stays. And if that confirmation doesn't come early, then you won't be able to give an opinion on that early. We could potentially be going into a last game of the season where we don't know if the captain, leader, legend is playing his last game for Chelsea.
That can't happen.
It'd be a horrible thing to happen.
We need to have a day in which we need to have a moment to say thank you.
I think the club realises the mistakes that were made with Lampard. And one would hope they want to avoid that happening again.
Okay. It would be a very brave man for Conte to come in. Like, the club have put the ball in his court, which doesn't seem quite fair. For him to come in, and one of the first things he does is dismiss John Terry. Wouldn't be the surest of footings to start on, would it?
Well, this happened many years ago with a guy called Claudio Ranieri, head of him, who the first thing he did was get rid of Dennis Wise.
Yes.
Now that was Ken Bates' little bit of management to try and get rid of the problem for himself.
Right.
But yeah, it would be a very unpopular thing for him to do. The thing we can say in Conte's favour is that when he went to Juventus, he took Pirlo, who was in his 30s, an ageing midfielder, and he turned him into the best midfielder on the planet.
Okay, that's a nice point. So fingers crossed.
Fingers definitely crossed.
Dan, thank you so much for coming to us. Guys, do us a favour, comment below, let us know what you think of the issues raised, and if you enjoyed this video, why not click the subscribe button? Go on, you Blues. Welcome to the Chelsea Fans Channel. There have been a few dubious signings coming into the club at the moment, haven't there? We're going to take a moment now to go through the top 5 most dubious and pointless signings to have ever signed for Chelsea Football Club in the Premier League era.